Good morning, everyone. My name is Thomas Carton. I'm the director of American National Tax Advisors here in Bangkok. Today, we're going to do an interview with Andy Williams, who's a health insurance expert and a general insurance expert here in Thailand. As we know, there's three primary issues that every expat here in Thailand has to deal with. The first is a visa. How can you stay in Thailand? But even more importantly, because many of us are getting on in age, you can see my white hair, is health insurance issues. The third, of course, being tax, which is our area of expertise. Today, we're bringing in Andy Williams to help us with the health insurance issues. This is an area that is fraught with issues to it, and you could get something that you think is what you need, and it doesn't work at all with it. So we thought we'd bring in an expert and discuss today health insurance and topics and ask various questions with us. Andy, thank you. Let me introduce your company for us too.
Yeah, so I'm Andy. I live in Chiang Mai. The company I work with is CNX Insure. We've been a broker up there for around about 10 years.
Yeah. What's the first thing that somebody comes into Thailand and worries and needs health insurance? What's their first gateway or action they need to take, in your opinion?
Well, I think first of all, these days, people are going to do search on the internet.
Yeah.
Look what health insurance is out there. I definitely recommend talking to a broker such as ourselves.
Yeah.
If you talk to a broker, it means that you're able to keep your options open rather than if you go direct to an insurer, you'll just kind of have whatever fixed options that they're offering. Otherwise, if you go to a broker, then there's multiple options you could go for. But it's also, making sure that you get the right insurer.
Yeah.
And of the insurers that we use within our brokerage, we only use insurers that I know that do pay for claims.
You had mentioned earlier that one of the differences between a Thai insurer and an international insurer, specifically on being able to continue your coverage. Can you give me a little more detail, about that?
Yeah, sure. Quite often people will say to me, look, I want to get a Thai insurance company. Why wouldn't I? I live in Thailand. It makes sense. And I absolutely understand that. And the premiums will be a little bit less because it will just cover you in Thailand. There are some kind of downsides to that, which can be that the Thai insurers, they don't guarantee renewal. So when it comes to your time to renew, they could, if they like, they could cancel the policy. Whereas versus the international insurers, it might be governed by the UK government or the French authorities or the US. In those cases, that when you have a policy like that, they guarantee that they will renew it year on year. So, if you were unfortunate enough to get something like cancer, unfortunately, it does have a high chance of coming back. And in that case, that the insurer would renew your policy. And if it does come back in the future, you'll be able to claim for that again.
So to clarify, if you had cancer and you've had successful treatment to it, the Thai insurer the next year could cancel your thing under their current rules.
Exactly.
But the international insurance under your contract could not. They have to continue you on as long as you're paying the
exactly.
thing to it.
As long as you pay the premium, they guarantee renewability.
Yeah.
And typically, most of the international insurers or the international insurers that we use, they guarantee renewability for life. I mean, the premiums will get a lot higher as you get into your 70s or 80s, but providing you pay that premium, they will renew the policy for you.
This is one of the reasons why you want to use an insurance broker about this, because they're going to walk you through what the contracts say and don't and what it includes and doesn't. If you go to just a regular insurance thing and you try to do something online, you're not necessarily going to know if this is going to cover and what the pitfalls are. Speaking of that, I've seen some guys in different presentations. Both of our organizations are long-term sponsors of the Chiang Mai Expat Club. And not in that particular group, but I've seen other groups where you've got somebody coming up with who's actually selling travel insurance.
Yeah.
With it because you're here. Can you give me the pitfalls of buying a travel insurance policy when you're residing in Thailand for long term?
Oh yeah, I mean, it's common that you're leaving your home country and the first port of call will be to get travel insurance, which is the smart thing to do.
Yeah.
You're insured. However, the only thing about travel insurance is that they are short-term contracts. So if you buy travel insurance for say 3 months, they're not obliged to renew it at the end of that 3 months. So it's not something that you could rely on long term. Also, travel insurances, quite a lot of them have small print, very fine print,
Yeah.
so you could come over here and just, if you you have a motorbike license, you're legal, you haven't been drinking alcohol, you're driving your bike, you've had an accident, and then when you come to claim that, you find out in small print that perhaps the bike that you were driving, that cc of the bike was too big, and the insurer just says, well, we're not going to pay for that reason. Or you might have a passenger on the bike, we're not going to pay for that reason. So travel insurers do have ways of getting out of paying medical bills versus a long-term annual health insurance policy, which is a lot more clearer and a lot more stable, I think.
Now, in our earlier conversations, because we've got a lot of people who are enjoying life here.
Yeah.
You mentioned that if you are legally intoxicated, specifically the travel insurance was not going to cover you in that motorcycle accident. Would that be a regular Thai insurance company too, or is that just your drunk driving? Health insurance isn't going to cover you if you are in an auto accident here.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's crazy to think that it does happen here a lot. People will drink and they'll drive, and the first thing that they'll do is when you get to hospital, they'll do a blood alcohol test, and if you're over the limit, no matter what insurance you have, travel, Thai, international,
you're paying the bill.
None of them will pay. Yeah, you're
paying the bill personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
What's the number one reason you've seen for people being turned down for health insurance? Is it heart issues, cancer? I mean, what's the most common issue that somebody's come over here? Because you've told me that unfortunately we got so many people who are at advanced age that a lot of people can't get health insurance. Sure. With it, what's the number one issue that is turning everybody down flatly? I know that something, and we'll discuss this a second question. Can they just say we're not going to cover this particular issue? But what's the number one thing where they just say you can't be covered?
Yeah, I mean, things to do with the heart, stuff that's linked to cancer, perhaps, diabetes. They're issues that the insurer will look a lot more closely, ask some medical questions. If it's isolated, so if someone's just had a problem with their heart, but they're fit, they're healthy, they're not overweight, then typically the insurer will say, look, we'll offer you coverage, but unfortunately we can't cover your heart because that's been classed as a pre-existing condition. But if you have a few of these things linked, so you've had a heart attack, you're a little bit overweight, maybe you've got a bit of diabetes, they're 100% sure they will not give you coverage.
How bad? I know in the U.S. for a long time, smoking was a massive, very, very difficult to get health insurance. Is that the same here? Yeah,
typically they do ask you that question on the form. Do you smoke? How many do you smoke a day? But again, if that was isolated and you had no medical history at all, then I think they would overlook that. But if you were kind of overweight or you had any other medical history and you were a smoker, they probably combine those things together and not offer you coverage.
What about marijuana usage? Any questions on that? Because that's a semi-legal thing here now. Is that an issue at all with the insurers?
Not at the moment. Not at the moment. I mean, that's not to say that they wouldn't ask that in the future. But actually, I mean, they do. One of the questions they will ask you is, do you use recreational drugs?
Okay. Then that would qualify, because it's in this weird status now here in Thailand. That would theoretically qualify for a question that they would ask in that recreational drugs.
Yeah. I mean, they don't single that out, marijuana specifically. It would be a sort of encompassing all types of drugs. So that would fall under that umbrella. But I've yet to see them ask that specifically.
Yeah. Well, good news. It's not going to affect your health insurance. Should you choose to partake of some herbal recreational stuff with it. We also talked about the difference between a coverage that has outpatient services and inpatient, and which is less expensive and which is more expensive. I want to talk about that. And then next go into it is, if somebody says, okay, wait a second, I don't mind paying up to $500,000 baht of deposit, can they get just a catastrophic insurance?
Yeah.
Or just, so give us the various levels of insurance they can buy here.
Yeah, so you could take, providing you're fit and healthy, you could take a medical insurance that covers absolutely everything. So it covers you when you're sleeping in the hospital, inpatient care, when you visit the hospital as an outpatient, so you don't need to sleep in the hospital. Obviously, that's going to cost more. Typically, that will cost double of if you were to choose a policy that just covers you for inpatient treatment alone. Now, I think in Thailand, that outpatient care is so inexpensive. I typically recommend people to take an inpatient policy only, have a deductible, or in the UK we call that an excess, where
Yeah.
you agree to pay the first amount of a claim. That
Yeah.
will lower your premium. And then the outpatient day-to-day stuff, you cover that yourself. I mean, a broken finger or a bit of food poison, it's going to cost you 1,000 baht, 2,000 baht. But to include that outpatient care, the premiums double. I was, insurance I have for myself, I just have an inpatient only policy,
Yeah.
have a bit of a deductible, and you have that insurance sitting there in the background. And that's what you've pointed out, they call that catastrophic. So if something big happens, it's there and it's ready
Yeah.
to cover you
Yeah.
if that happens.
The outpatient care here is so fabulously expensive. As an American, I tell the story here. When about the first year I was here, I was dating my now wife, and she left my condo, and my upper lip started to swell up, and it was to the point where I was thinking, okay, if this got into my throat, I wouldn't be able to breathe. So I'm like, I called her up because I wasn't driving at the time and said, hey, you need to drive me to the emergency room. And as an American, I'm thinking, holy, this is going to be, a lot of money. I'm grabbing every credit card I've got, all my cash, checking my bank balance and everything, thinking I'm going to go through expensive. And now this is the level of care. I'd had a patient card at Bangkok Hospital because I'd seen a doctor there. It's a real common thing. You see your doctor in the hospital here, not a separate office. So I had a patient card. I went into Bangkok Hospital, and to give them credit, I was sitting in the bed with no insurance in 90 seconds. I'd put a credit card down.
Yeah.
That was it. Sitting in the emergency room bed in 90 seconds. 3 minutes later, I'm talking to the doctor in the emergency room. Now, this is normally in the US be hours and hours of waiting, but within 5 minutes, I'm sitting in the bed with this, talk to the doctor. The doctor gives me an antihistamine. We waited about an hour. The swelling had started to go down and got released. Now to the point of dread as an American, because that would be minimum of $1,000 to $2,000 in the US. With it. Here, it was $35. That's the level of the outpatient care here, guys. It's so much less expensive. It's better to worry about the inpatient with the larger stuff, in my opinion, at least, than to worry about the nickel and dime stuff. It's not really going to stress you, to this. And that was a full emergency room at one of the more expensive hospital chains in Thailand. And I've had to, a couple of times at various incidents. I've used Vejthani, which I'm pronouncing incorrecly, and used Bangkok Hospital. But there's a Bangkok Hospital in Chiang Mai now with it. And then there's some great hospitals in Pattaya as well. The healthcare here is actually really, really good. And especially compared to America, much, much less expensive. And then what would be your opinion, because you're UK resident, what would be your just quality of care and timeliness here versus the UK? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, typically, you'd have what we call the NHS, the National Health Service. I haven't had to use that for many, many years, not since I was a kid, but you're going to be waiting around for hours and hours and hours, and you're really going to need to be collapsing on the floor before they'll prioritize you. You'd have to be in such a bad state for them to prioritize you. Whereas here, as you say, you go into the hospital and they will just see you immediately.
I always quote this: through a sheer act of stupidity, I had a very large speaker and I was trying to carry it up the stairs. I couldn't fit it up the stairs, so I came back down, and as I was putting it down, I dropped the large speaker on my big toe and shattered the big toe. And in America, they wouldn't really do anything, and you'd be 12, 14 hours. My wife drove me up to the emergency room, a private hospital, drove me to the emergency room. The guy was immediately there with the wheelchair.
Yeah.
I was wheeled in minutes with this. The insurance cards, which, that is a necessary thing where you've got to put some money down on this stuff. The insurance cards go out, treatment was done and everything, and very, very, very good service.
Yeah.
It is fast and it is efficient here if you've got the insurance, or you're going to put several 100,000 baht down depending upon your level of emergency room. Actually, let's discuss that. You got more experience with that. So say somebody does walk into a hospital here, and it's a private hospital and they've got no insurance with it. And it's a bad cough, something. How much do they normally have to put down at what kind of levels? I mean, we're doing estimates here because we're not hospitals, obviously, but you're going to have to put money down. What would be the?
Yeah, so it depends on what the problem is. If you went in and you had a cough or something minor, then you don't have any insurance. You know, the hospitals here, they are private, they do
Yeah.
want to get paid. So, you know, they'll set a limit. And typically a base limit would be about 20,000 baht. So
Okay.
you'd need to put the first 20,000 baht down as a deposit before they'll admit you, start giving you any kind of treatment. But if it was something a lot more serious and you haven't got insurance, you know, you've been involved in a really bad accident, providing you're conscious, then you know they might ask you for as much as. I mean, I've seen people been asked for up to 1 million baht before,
Yeah.
because the hospital knows. You
Yeah.
know, they know that there's going to be a big bill there.
Yeah.
Actually, a guy that has insurance with me, he had a bad motorbike accident just outside of Chiang Mai in Lampang,
Yeah.
and he broke his back, punctured his lung, broke. I think he broke both of his legs, and he ended up being in hospital for about 3 months.
Yeah.
And at the time, he had insurance through us, through CNX. However, he just didn't have his insurance card on him at the time,
Yeah.
and he was unconscious. So they were asking him for, I think they asked him for about 1.5 million baht
Yeah.
before they would start giving him any kind of treatment. Fortunately, his friend had my phone number. He called us up. I was able to give them the guarantee that he had insurance, and they started the treatment. He didn't need to put down a deposit.
Yeah. Why you need an insurance broker? Because part of the issue is I'm blessed with a Thai wife who's incredibly brilliant as well. She tends to walk me through when I'm handling this stuff. And if I didn't have her, I'd have to rely a whole lot more on my insurance agent, because you need that ability to access and the hospitals here have, and the care is tremendously good, but at times the English translation is not always the greatest with it, and you don't always necessarily know the details of your policies and stuff, and you're trying to do multiple languages and stuff. A good insurance agent or broker can help you in those situations in a big way with it. That's a really important thing, to be able to have somebody to help you get through these issues with it. Because when you're in that situation, you need somebody who can walk that line for you and help you out with it. Because I always carry my insurance card with me. It's a lesson I haven't really thought about it, but you need to keep those things with you as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because if you've you've been involved in an accident, and then when you get to hospital, if you're unconscious, what they will do is, again, because they want to know how they're going to be paid, they will go through your wallet. It was a funny phrase that someone called it, was a wallet autopsy. They would do it. So make sure you've got you have an insurance card or maybe a credit card. So yeah, it's absolutely vital, I think, to carry your insurance card around with you.
And we had an elderly couple, very nice couple. The husband was very, very ill. The wife was Thai, but she'd lived in America, so she had U.S. Social Security, and he was getting U.S. Social Security, and they had an account. They had just a regular ATM card, but for whatever reason, the ATM card got lost. They already got the new ATM card, but they didn't have the PIN code. The PIN code was being sent to his children from a previous marriage. Now he was going to the hospital, and truly he was not going to come out of his hospital, with it. But the kids would not give her the PIN code to pay for his medical care at the hospital. Wow. One of the things about this is in healthcare issues with this, you kind of need a wingman who can help you out on this stuff. And we've had people who heard stories of and seen where somebody gets in a stroke. They've got plenty of money to cover the insurance deductibles on stuff, but the hospitals here aren't going to care for you for very long unless you can access those funds. You need somebody out there who can help you here, who can say, wait a second, here's his code, here's his credit cards, here's how to access those funds. Because we had one client who, a good friend of his, had a stroke. Nobody knew how to access the funds, and the guy was a multimillionaire in the U.S.
Yeah.
And literally, they discharged him, and he passed away on my client's couch after 10 days of just dribbling, because there was no care, no nothing. The guy had plenty of money to pay it, but he had nobody to help him do it. You need to plan for those kinds of emergencies, especially if you don't have a Thai wife here. You need a good friend who can help you handle this. There's also some different agencies and groups that will help you do this kind of stuff that are good to do. But make sure you have access for this stuff in case the worst happens, that you don't have the ability to deal with this stuff.
Sure, yeah, and we'll always say to all of our clients that, if you do find yourself in a situation, always call us as well.
Yeah.
I mean, in practice, how it works is you get hospitalized, you give them your insurance card, they'll call the insurer, they'll deal with each other. And quite often, actually, they won't even involve the broker. But I'll always say to our clients, give us a call, just make us aware of the fact that you are in hospital, what the situation is. We can oversee that and make sure, there might just be like a language barrier problem,
Yeah.
or a time difference, communication error. And we're always able to oversee it and make sure everything goes through how it should do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, and people worry about healthcare, and this is a big issue. And it's a big issue wherever you are in the world, the older you get. That's the case wherever. But every single time I've accessed to healthcare here in Thailand, it's better experience than what it was in the US. And I lived in New Zealand for 5 years, and it's a better experience than it was there with it. These guys are very efficient with it. It's not always done the exact same way you're used to with it, but they're putting more care into stuff, and they really actually work well for you. It's just you're in a developing country. You need to make sure that you've got the right insurance for your needs. And there may be cases where travel insurance works for somebody. Yeah. But if you're going to stay here long term, plan for long term quality insurance with it. And you did mention earlier that, like, I believe was saying AXA, when you get a policy, and correct me if I'm incorrect, but you said they can cover you here in Thailand. But if you also travel around, would that policy cover you as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I would, if someone wants an insurance that's going to cover you when you travel outside of Thailand, I would recommend an international policy. But I think if you were to just choose a Thai policy, then it would cover you when you travel anywhere throughout Thailand.
Yeah.
So depending on the policy, most of them will cover any hospital. Perhaps if you have a lower tier policy, there might be a network. Yeah. So you can't access people like Bangkok Hospital. But yeah, so I mean, for me, I personally, I have an international insurance, and that's partly to do with the fact that I do travel a bit. So when I travel, I don't need to worry about buying travel insurance. Yeah. I have everything covered there. But it's it's a very important point. I think so many people, they buy insurance and they want to tick a box. So to say that, right, I've got the insurance, I can cross that off my list. But they just don't know what they actually have. If you ask them a question, can you tell me about your policy? They wouldn't know what they actually have. And I think that's so important.
It's better to do this in advance before you need it than when you need it to know what you actually have.
And to have, if you have a good broker, they're able to explain to you what you've got. So you know from day one exactly what you are and what you're not covered for. So many people will, forget, and then they'll think, oh, I must be covered for outpatient things, but they're actually not at all.
Yeah. That's why get a good broker. Talk to your broker about what your needs are, and what this is going to cover. Yeah. You're going to get a lot more information from that person than you are from just the website, because this is all going to be customized for you. And you can pick your level that you want to go through this, and it makes a big difference. Okay, thank you very much, Andy.
All right,
for an interview. Contact information for both American Tax Advisors and Andy's company will be in here. Please feel free to contact us if you got a tax question or health question, and we're glad to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.